Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Over the weekend, Mario Cristobal, the Miami Hurricanes, they go out and hire their next defensive coordinator heading into 2025 in Corey Hetherman. And, as a Michigan fan, we hopped on Saturday afternoon and just gave some, initial takeaways. Talk about what we knew from Corey Hetherman up until that point, went over a little bit of his background, but really didn't get too much into the weeds in terms of what to expect from him taking over this Miami Hurricanes defense. Over the last 48 hours, I went back, watched some Minnesota games on the defensive side of the football. Want to get into some takeaways I had and talk about what to expect from Corey Hetherman. And I think it starts with two things. One, you can tell he's a great teacher. This is a defense that is extremely well coached, not only stopping the run with really disciplined run fits and maintaining leverage, gap integrity, but I think just as importantly, really, really clean in the back end. They play a lot of zone coverage, and zone coverage is very effective to play. Now, a lot of teams don't play because they can't teach it. And a lot of times it's a lot easier to just play man coverage because the players know what they're doing. If you can teach zone coverage at a high level and you can play zone coverage at a high level, that helps your defense in a big way. And Corey Hetherman, from what I've seen, plays a lot of zone at Minnesota. I think more importantly, they do a damn good job too. And one of the biggest takeaways was this was a year one guy. I mean, he had one off season to get this Minnesota defense ready. They looked awesome from game 1 to game 12. I watched that UNC game. You would expect a new defensive coordinator taking over a new defense to maybe have some growing pains. Thought it was really good. And so that's something that makes you feel good is, hey, one off season, Corey Hetherman did a really good job with Minnesota. I think there's really good reason to think they can do a really good job in one offseason with this Miami Hurricanes defense as well. Now, I want to get into some of my initial takeaways. Before we get into it, as always, just want to say thank you to you guys and to the Miami Hurricane fans. It's been a really fun last couple of weeks, right? Carson Beck in the portal, Corey Hetherman taking over the defense, big-time vibes with the Miami Hurricane fans, and rightfully so. Like, you look at the offense, feel pretty good with Carson Beck leading the charge that this offense is going to be really good. And we said Carson Beck's a great fit within this Miami Hurricanes offense because they're going to be able to run the football. Carson Beck's going to be able to work play action. Now the question was, hey, can this defense take a big step in the right direction? And if they do, if you get this Miami Hurricanes defense to take that step, you're not going to just win 10 games. I think this is a team that competes for an ACC championship. And I think more importantly, can be really dangerous in the college football playoffs. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If you all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. And without further ado, let's get into Corey Hetherman. Again, I think when you first get into Corey Hetherman, and we talked about the background, right? He was a small Division III coach early in his tenure, especially in the Northeast, and he kind of just worked his way up. Zone coverage, that's the first thing that kind of jumps out. They play a ton of zone. And there's a lot of pros to playing zone coverage at a high level. One, everybody has eyes on the football, right? When you're playing zone coverage, you're dropping back into your spot. You're keeping your eyes on the quarterback. And so when that football is in the air, you see teams that play zone coverage effectively create a lot of turnovers because you can go make plays on the football. I think secondly, it's really, really good at beating some of those or dealing with some of those man-beating routes. Like if you're a team that can play zone and you have to play man coverage and the opposing offense knows you're playing man coverage, there's a lot of concepts you can go to beat man. Even if you have really good defensive backs, those shallow crossers, those rub routes, those pick routes, even if you have defensive backs that you think can hold up in man coverage, it's hard to do it consistently because there are answers for man coverage on the offensive side of the football. And I think finally, and this is becoming a big storyline in the landscape of college football, when you play zone coverage, your eyes are on the quarterback. And so the effectiveness of quarterback scrambling is a lot less. When you're playing a lot of man coverage and your defensive backs are chasing wide receivers down the field with their backs turned to the quarterback, if that quarterback can get outside the pocket and get out in space, it doesn't only go for a 5-yard scramble. It can go and really hurt you. And so when you play zone coverage, there's a lot of answers it provides for a defense. Now the cons of zone coverage, I think the hardest thing is teaching it. It's very, very hard. It's a lot easier to say, hey, all y'all in the defensive backfield, man coverage. And that's your guy. You're going to follow him across the formation, and you're going to follow him and try not to let him catch the football, right? It's easy. It's not very hard to teach. If you can teach it right, it's very effective. And I think the first thing that jumped out is Corey Hetherman teaches zone coverage exceptionally well. Now, the second storyline here, second level blitzes. He's a guy that wants to change the picture for opposing offenses, opposing offensive lines and quarterbacks, and he's going to send pressure from a lot of different spots. Now, you look at what he did and what it kind of looks like. Pull up just a couple examples of when I'm buzzing through some of the film. Most notably, it's number 20, this safety, that they like to walk into the box in some of those second and third and passing sort of downs, and they like to disguise when he's coming. And you start rolling the film, if you're the offensive line, it looking like a pretty simple protection, right? They're going to bring 4, and we know what we're doing out here. Well, not when you send that second level blitz, and this tackle's eyes go into the edge, and you're running your edge defender on the inside to kind of try to bring that tackle with them, and you get a free runner. So many free runners were created for Minnesota's defense. I mean, you look at his name's Jack Henderson, number 20, coming in on the blitz here. He ends up getting the sack. Jack Henderson rushed the passer almost 90 times and had 7 sacks. I mean, they were exceptionally good at scheming up this kid from the second level, coming on blitzes and creating negative plays. And it looks a lot different, right? You go back to that first game against North Carolina, 4th and 3. We want to heat up the quarterback. We want to make sure he's getting the ball out of his hands. Well, we're going to show that we're playing a little man coverage right here, and we're going to send him off the edge. And once again, the tackle's eyes are on either this backer that's blitzing at the second level or that edge rusher. Well, you end up sending the safety, and you get another free runner. And now you're dropping back this edge and zone in that kind of flat because you know the ball's got to come out. And he does an exceptional job taking away this throw. Hey, there's not a big throwing window, and you end up getting off the field on 4th down. And these second-level blitzes were really effective for Minnesota. And I think the point I'm trying to make here is he's not going to make it easy on offensive linemen and quarterbacks. We're going to change the picture. We're going to bring pressure from a lot of different spots on the football field. We'll show pressure with some of these linebackers. We'll show some pressure with some of these safeties. You don't really know who's coming. And a lot of times you're able to scheme up some free runners. And right here, this is what you get. Quick throw, we're getting off the field on 4th down. The last thing that really jumped to me about Corey Hetherman, and again, we're going to have a conversation around Corey Hetherman a lot over the next couple of months, how they play the run. A lot less shooting at gaps and a lot more two-gapping. And you look at what happened with Miami stopping the run, and when they got into trouble, they wanted to shoot gaps a lot. It's really good at creating negative plays, but it's also really not great in terms of allowing creases for running backs, especially out there on the edge. It was really ugly at times for Miami stopping the run outside the tackle. And why was that? You had your edge rushers, primarily a guy like Tyler Barron, who was, and I don't mean to drag Tyler Barron, but at times trying to be too much of a hero, right? When you want to play good defense, it's everybody's doing their job. And when you're trying to run outside of the tackle, you need your edge defenders to play with really, really good leverage. And you see that consistently from this Corey Hetherman defense. I think most notably right here, we're looking at a 2nd and 8. This edge rusher right here, UNC is going to try to get the ball to the perimeter right here. Number 92, he knows his job. Hey, I got to keep my outside shoulder free. And so this running back can't get outside of me. And if I do that, my second level defenders and linebackers are going to be able to funnel and make a play on the football. That's exactly what happens. Yeah, I ain't letting you get outside my outside shoulder. And you end up having a running back run backwards because he's trying to, because that's where the run's supposed to design to go. If you defend this well, like 92 does, this is what happens. And now your second level guys are coming in and you're creating a negative play on 2nd and 8, creating a 3rd and long. Disciplined football, stopping the run. I mean, that's exactly what you want it to look in the run game. I got to keep my outside shoulder free. It's exactly what 92 does. And we're swarming to the football. And again, swarming to the football, that is something you see all over the film. Last one, I mean, it's not just the edge rushers who do it. And take a look at the safety once again. Jack Henderson doing a great job. Another run scheme where we're trying to get it out to the perimeter. Number 20 knows his job. Hey, nothing gets outside of me. I'm going to keep my outside shoulder free. I'm going to let my second level defenders rally and funnel to the ball. Number 20 doesn't end up making the play here, but really he does. Because if he does not keep the leverage there, you're letting the running back get outside of tackles and get out in space. You do your job, other guys are going to benefit from it. And that's kind of what you see right here. You look at Corey Hetherman, the only knock you can possibly have on this hire is it's a small sample size at the Power 4 level. But Corey Hetherman, to me, especially when you go back and watch Minnesota, one, he's a really good teacher. And probably the last thing I'll say is personnel usage. he knows how to use his guys. And that's such an important aspect of college football where you have all these really good athletes and they're still developing. And now we got to figure out what's the best way to use them. Take a look at Corey Parrish. Corey Parrish was one of the best safeties in the country as a true freshman for Minnesota in the 2024 year. I'm holding out hope that Miami can go get Corey Parrish and bring him to Miami. Corey Parrish was a guy that was extremely talented, and they knew that, and they used him in all sorts of different ways. They didn't just treat him like a regular safety. Yes, he led Minnesota with 5 interceptions, was a ball-hawking safety in the back end. He also spent over 200 snaps as a box safety, getting involved in the run game, had 15 run stops for Minnesota too. How he uses his best players, really important. And you take a look at some of the studs that Miami is going to have, guys like Ruben Bain. You want to get creative with them. You want to put them in spots where they can have the largest impact on the football game. I think Corey Hetherman does a really good job of that as well. There's a lot of things to like about what Corey Hetherman brings. I think most importantly, I think you're going to get a much more disciplined defense. And if you have a more disciplined defense for Miami, because you look at this roster now and say, well, we got all the answers. Right, last year, yes, I'm not defending Lance Guidry. The defensive backs just weren't good enough. You look at Darryl Porter, Jaden Harris, Saquon Patterson probably wasn't quite ready as a true freshman. They were hurting in the back end. And so we knew that secondary wasn't going to be elite. The problem was it was such an undisciplined defense, and you could tell these guys were so confused that it was even worse than we expected. I think Corey Hetherman, you're getting a great teacher. You're going to get a more disciplined defense, and a more disciplined defense with guys put in positions to have successful with the amount of talent I think Miami has on the defensive side of the football. It's impossible to see them not getting better. Now, how big is that step? That's probably to determine how good Miami is in 2025. We'll see how it plays out. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. We'll cover a lot more about Corey Hetherman, obviously break down the spring game. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to y'all later.